Cosmopolitan Constitution. Cosmopolitan Constitution. इसको समझते हैं. पहले तो let's try to understand what do we mean by the word cosmopolitan. I'll take some examples in order to make you understand. Anyone who has been to uh, Bangalore, Bangalore gaya? Anyone? So when you go to Bangalore, you will find that in the city you can converse in English by and large. You can converse in Hindi. You can converse in Kannada, or you can converse in even Tamil. You actually see it's a city where you are able to see multiple cultures. You're able to see multiple ways in which people are living, all coexisting. In this regard, we see it is a cosmopolitan city. It is something where anyone who goes from India over there will actually be able to identify himself. Well, think, yeah, it's as if I'm in Delhi. Someone from Kolkata will come and say, well, it's as if I'm in Bengal. In the same manner, when you look at Pune, in so many ways, it has become very cosmopolitan for the people who have been to Pune. So you can speak in Marathi, you can speak in Tamil. You'll always have people who are able to understand everything. You'll not be actually able to see a person and identify from which part of India this person comes from. This is what we call as cosmopolitan identity, cosmopolitan features. How exactly we are trying to create a cosmopolitan constitution? So a constituent assembly felt that what we are trying to do is to create a constitution, of course, which applies to people of India. But the manner in which we would want to create a constitution, it must encapsulate values which are global values, which are global rights, human rights. For example, let's say you are a person who is a French citizen and you read Constitution of India and it talks about how exactly we protect liberty, how exactly we protect everyone's dignity, how exactly we believe privacy to be an aspect of one's liberty. In this aspect, you would think, yeah, this is a constitution which is speaking about what kind of country I would want to live in. It is actually talking about my society, that is French society. There is something aspirational with respect to what we have written in the constitution, which every person in the world would want to aspire to become. That means our constitution cannot be limited to something which resonates only with people of India. It should be something which can be a global document, which at the core of it is keeping human liberty, dignity at the core. How exactly we essentially would want to protect everyone's identity. समझ पा रहे नहीं आ रहा? Is it clear? And that is why when we essentially look at many of the aspects of Indian constitution, it has cosmopolitan identity. For example, we never shied away from borrowing features from different constitutions. रशियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से भी हमने चीजें ली है, फ्रेंच कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से भी ली है, कनेडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से भी ली है, ऑस्ट्रेलियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से भी ली है, right? What else we see? We actually see that we have kept on expanding the meaning of liberty. We have kept on expanding the meaning of dignity that are given in the constitution. We have given a very diverse meaning of every aspect. On one hand, we talk about equality, but on the other hand, we also talk about affirmative action. That is, how exactly we are able to help the people who are backward to come forward. It's a way by which we seek to create what can be called as a cosmopolitan constitution. This is important because UPSC has already asked this question once, and in interview a lot of times, that is, your panel is asking this question, don't you think it's not something to take a lot of pride in if we say that we created the world's best constitution? On the other hand, most of the things we have borrowed from other constitutions. In this regard, what they are expecting is for you to be able to defend there was nothing wrong as such to borrow things from other constitutions. Anyone want to answer the point? One very important aspect is the intent was to create a constitution which is not limited only for people of India, but it should be a global document which has a cosmopolitan identity. इसको नहीं समझ में आया? जीव, fine, जीवा. Write down. Constituent Assembly wanted to capture. Constituent Assembly wanted to capture universal and global universal human values. Global हटा दो, universal लिख दे तो क्यों global लिख रहे हैं? Universal human values. Constituent Assembly wanted to capture universal human values of equality and liberty, of equality and liberty, which keeps human dignity, which keeps human dignity at the core of everything, at the core of everything. The goal of Constituent Assembly, the goal, objective, goal, GOAL, goal of Constituent Assembly was not only to create, the goal of Constituent Assembly was not only to create a descriptive document, a descriptive document which provides details with respect to functioning, which provides detail with respect to functioning of Indian state, which provides details with respect to Indian state, but also to create a value document in inverted commas underlined, but also to create a value document, but also to create a value document to which any global citizen can relate to which any global citizen can relate to. सही बात. Example, Constituent Assembly borrowed features and provisions from different constitutions, features and provisions from different constitutions in order to ensure Indian constitution to get benefit in order to ensure Indian constitution gets benefit from from experiences of other countries, experiences of other countries, experiences of other countries. Now write down criticism of Constituent Assembly. Criticism of Constituent Assembly. Criticism of Constituent Assembly. Now the format in which we are going to write it. So ऐसे समझते हैं. There are different ways in which UPSC can ask question with respect to this topic, criticism. एक तो वो पूछ सकता है that they might ask you to write 4 or 5 points of criticism. Another format is they might actually give you a statement with respect to one point of criticism where they would want you to explain it. At the same time, you also will need to explain the counterpoint of it. समझ में आ रहा नहीं आ रहा? So it can be that they are asking you question only with respect to one criticism, where they would want you to explain that criticism. At the same time, they are also expecting you to provide counter view to that criticism. To what extent it is true that Constituent Assembly was not truly a representative body. Matlab, they essentially are asking you about this point of criticism, but they also would want you to write about what is the extent to which you can argue this is not a valid criticism. याद है समझ में आता नहीं आता? The way in which we are going to take notes, we are going to write down points of criticism, but with every point of criticism, we are also going to write counterpoint, counter view to that criticism. Based on the way in which they are asking question, we can pick and choose the points that we need to write in the answer. बात समझ में आ गई नहीं आ गई? But a more organized way to understand is what we are able to understand both sides of the argument. तो सबसे पहला point of criticism क्या था? That Constituent Assembly, write down. First point, Constituent Assembly was not truly a representative body. Constituent Assembly was not truly a representative body. अब ऐसा क्यों कहा गया? Let's try to understand. See, basically, we are talking about creation of Constitution of India. We are going to talk about, we are going to create something which is going to become the basis on which how exactly Indian society will now function, perhaps forever. In this regard, we would want people who are representing the people of India to be the people who should become part of Constituent Assembly. In this aspect, what exactly we see? How exactly we got members of Constituent Assembly? Was it that people of India voted for it? No. They were actually elected by provincial assemblies. That means they were the product of indirect elections. What else? Even members of provincial assemblies, they themselves were not elected based on universal adult franchise. मैंने बताया था. They were elected on the basis of very limited franchise. In this limited franchise, if you think about it, who exactly was not having the power to vote? किसके पास voting का अधिकार नहीं था? Deprived sections. Are you understand? Poor of the society, Dalits of the society. I hope you have to follow what I'm trying to say. That means we're talking about a body called Constituent Assembly, which in no way is representing people of India. They are having the audacity to claim that we have created Constitution of India that applies for all of India. Criticism ये है कि well, Constituent Assembly is not a representative body. क्या समझ में नहीं है? इसका counter point समझते हैं. See, the thing is, at the time when we essentially got independence, elections in India had not occurred. In this respect, we were not having any kind of machinery which can conduct pan-India elections. As such, the best thing that we could have was what we did. In this regard, one can argue at the time when Constituent Assembly and its members were formed, they perhaps were not truly representative of people of India. But then in 1952, what exactly we see? First general elections occurred. In this first general election, all people in India had voted. That is, all the people who were legally adult above the age of 21 years. In this respect, what we see, most of the members of Constituent Assembly were elected to the first Parliament of India. In other words, indeed, one could have argued at the time when they essentially became members of Constituent Assembly, we were not having proper yardstick to establish that they indeed are having representative legitimacy of people of India. For the very fact that in 1952, when for the first time general elections occurred, people of India decided to send the same set of people to first Parliament of India is a vindication. मेरी बात समझ में? Vindication मतलब कि हम सही साबित हो गए ultimately. Is it clear? पक्का? दोनों पॉइंट, दोनों आर्ग्यूमेंट समझ में आ गए? दोनों साइड ऑफ द आर्ग्यूमेंट राइट नाउ. This is argued because this is argued because this is argued because first point, again the same way, this is argued because थोड़ा स्पेस छोड़ो, फर्स्ट पॉइंट यहाँ, फिर सेकंड पॉइंट यहाँ, राइट? फर्स्ट पॉइंट, members of CA were not directly elected by the people. Members of Constituent Assembly were not directly elected by the people. Members of CA were not directly elected by the people. Second point, members of the provincial assemblies, members of the provincial assemblies which had sent, which had sent, or rather which had elected members of provincial assemblies which had elected members of constituent assembly, members of provincial assemblies which had elected members of constituent assembly, comma, were themselves elected, were themselves elected by a very limited franchise, by a very limited franchise. इसका मीनिंग समझ में आ गया? Not all people were having right to vote. इसका मतलब ये है, were having a very limited franchise. सही बात? Write down नीचे counter argument. Counter argument. At the time when Constituent Assembly was formed, at the time when Constituent Assembly was formed, there was no agency, there was no agency, comma, mechanism or infrastructure present, no agency, comma, mechanism or infrastructure present to conduct pan India elections, pan India elections based on universal adult franchise, based on universal adult franchise. It must also be noted, it must also be noted, most of the members of Constituent Assembly, most of the members of Constituent Assembly, most of the members of Constituent Assembly were elected in the first general elections in 1952, were elected in the first general elections in 1952 to Parliament of India. In 1952, in the first general elections, were elected in first general elections conducted in 1952 to Parliament of India. मेरे क्या chain of thought टूट गया था. To Parliament of India. Is it clear? सबने लिख लिया ना? This means members of Constituent Assembly, members of Constituent Assembly had always enjoyed popular mandate, had always enjoyed popular mandate. Popular mandate means, had it been कि 1946-47 में हम elections कराते, there was a very good chance the same set of members would have become members of Constituent Assembly. Is it clear? Right? Write down second point of criticism. Constituent Assembly was dominated by only one political party. Second criticism is Constituent Assembly was dominated by only one political party. See, when you analyze the members of Constituent Assembly, more than 2 by 3 of the members were members from only one political party called Indian National Congress. Critics point out whenever you talk about any political party, it will have a political ideology, it will have a ideological position with respect to any issue. If at all you end up having a constituent assembly which is composed of more than 66%, 67% of only one political party, one can argue the whole of constitution is a reflection of what one party believes in and not so much what diverse sections of India believes in. It is dominated by ideology of only one political party, that is Indian National Congress, and that is why Indian Constitution is more of a constitution of Indian National Congress. इसको नहीं समझ में आया? Is it clear? What is the counter argument? अब इसको समझना थोड़ा सा मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री है समझना. See, basically, when you go into the birth of Indian National Congress, it was in 1884. It was found. Why exactly it was found? Because Britishers felt, you know what, there has to be a legitimate political platform from where Indian leaders can talk to us, and we, in an organized manner, are able to understand about their demands, their expectations. In this aspect, it can be that we might not be agreeing to 80 out of 100 things that they might be saying, but there will be a way by which we can help them with respect to 20 things. At least that will keep them happy. In this regard, the very idea of Indian National Congress was a legitimate forum that was accepted even by Britishers, so that you are able to talk to Britishers and you will be listened to. समझ में आता नहीं आता? It was more a platform and not so much a party. In this regard, what happened? It started attracting political leaders of different political parties and ideologies. Why? Because when you go to Congress and when you speak, it will be listened to by everyone. And over a period of time, over decades, it had become what? A platform where you can do organized opposition, political opposition to Britishers. So when you look at the members who became members of Indian National Congress in last, that is 70 years before independence, it had people who essentially were from right wing, someone like Bal Gangadhar Tilak. It had people who essentially were ultra communist, radical Marxist. It had people who essentially were socialist, they were industrialist. That means while one can argue that Indian National Congress was formally a political party, but actually it had members who were from different political ideologies as a part of one political platform called Indian National Congress. In other words, it will be wrong to conclude that Indian National Congress, being dominated by 2 by 3 members of Constituent Assembly, is a reflection that only one party ideology dominated, because as such, Indian National Congress was not having any one party ideology. इसको नहीं समझ में. अब थोड़ा सा और डिटेल में समझते हैं इस पॉइंट को. See, at the time of independence, Mahatma Gandhi was of the opinion that it will be right or rightful on the part of Indian National Congress that now, as a political party, it dissolves itself. And after independence, there should be new political parties that should be formed. वो exactly believe that? इसको समझना. गांधी जी को लगता था, what exactly has happened, that while we got independence, society by and large are yet to get democratized. That is, people do not really know what exactly do we mean by democratic values. People do not really know how exactly they should and should not be voting. What exactly are the reasons why they should vote? What are the reasons for which they should not vote? And they will require very capable political leadership in order to do that. समझ में आता नहीं आ रहा? That means we essentially are going to be a country which is going to adopt a democratic political structure before society getting democratized. इसका बहुत सिंपल से एग्जांपल देखो कि हम देखते हैं people are voting based on caste. Voting based on caste, political parties based on caste, is it a reflection of a traditional society or a democratic society? Traditional society, मतलब we are still practicing traditional values in this. मेरी बात समझ पाते हैं यार? We are all crazy about शाहरुख खान का बेटा कब मूवी बनाएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि we are captivated with the idea बाहुबली का बेटा बाहुबली. I hope you would understand the point of time. जैसे हम लोग अभी बोल रहे never get, but actually there are some commercial reasons why these guys are getting movies, because we are also fascinated by what exactly are they going to do. मेरी बात समझ में आती नहीं आती? The idea is, as a society, we are still democratizing. So imagine what exactly was the situation in 1950. As such, what exactly Gandhi believed, that well, the role of political leadership is going to be very important right after independence, because they have to provide leadership to people by which they become the link towards democratization. समाज में democratic values को spread करने की जिम्मेदारी political leaders के ऊपर होगी. Or parliamentary system works on vibrant political party system. There should be different ideological political parties that should be present. Let's look at UK. तो Labour Party है, Socialist Party है, Communist Party, हर तरह की parties है. Why? For the reason that is how ideological based political parties will be able to provide alternatives to a voter with respect to how exactly he should be voting in a democracy. But the problem is, by and large, people of India do not understand these things, and all of them, when they look at Indian National Congress, they believe they are the people who brought us independence. These are freedom fighters, and we should vote for them. And that is why any leader within Indian National Congress will be very scared to leave Indian National Congress, though he may not be having the philosophy of socialism or ये बात समझ दो. For example, someone सबसे बड़े लीडर आज तक दलित कम्युनिटी के कौन है बताओ? There has been no one who has been taller than B.R. Ambedkar. He himself had lost the election in 1952. फर्स्ट जनरल इलेक्शन जब हुआ जस्टिस पार्टी के साथ वो लड़े, वो इलेक्शन हार गए. सोचो, B.R. अम्बेडकर इलेक्शन हार गए. What exactly it says, there was no Dalit consciousness that existed. There is no democratization of society that existed. And if at all you are not fighting under the flag of Congress, it will be very tough for you to win elections. If at all you are having a right-wing party which is now being started by Sardar Patel, let's say, someone like a socialist party which Nehru is starting, K.M. Munshi and let's say M.N. Roy are starting party with respect to communism. Then you will have some very capable leaders who are starting some very good political ideological parties, and it is going to help in democratization of India. Somewhere it is believed now, जो Marxian historians जब लिखते हैं history को, they believe that Congress had realized that they actually will not be able to assure victory if at all they dissolve Indian National Congress. They actually would want to be a beneficiary of the fact that we are yet to become a democratized society. देखो समझ लो? Because then our votes, which would have gone to Indian National Congress, will get divided with different political parties, and we will not be able to have a single majority party at the center. So Nehru, Sardar Patel, many of the leaders believed that role of Congress, if at all, is now more in an independent India, because we need to create a society, leave a society where we can sort of build on a free India. Anyone not able to follow what I'm trying to say? अब क्या ये सही रहा, डिसीजन गलत रहा? इन हाइंडसाइट अगर आप देखोगे, जो स्पेस ऑफ ऑपोजिशन था वो पहले मुस्लिम लीग करता था, and Muslim League had gone to Pakistan, so there was nothing that was opposing Indian National Congress. And all the ideological leaders were also in Indian National Congress. This space of opposition eventually were filled by whom? By regional parties who were fighting elections on regional issues. Traditional parties who were fighting issues on communal issues. मेरी बात समझ लो? So the way in which our opposition evolved, it actually evolved on what? Traditional ideas, traditional values. And subsequently, what exactly we saw? Caste and religion in Indian politics became a mainstay. Now there cannot be a political party which will be able to win elections if at all they are not keeping in mind caste and religious considerations. आम आदमी पार्टी किस प्लैंक पे आई थी? लोकपाल, करप्शन फ्री. 6-7 साल में अरविंद केजरीवाल was also reading Hanuman Chalisa, because he had understood the idea that if at all he would want to win election, he has to appeal to Hindu voters. I hope you're able to follow the logic. Is it clear?